Welcome. I'm Jessica Tietjen, and this is the Evolving to Exceptional podcast, where we talk about reaching peak performance in our workplaces, homes, and communities so that we can live our best life possible, an exceptional life.
And that's a great point because questions are very important. That's why it's so important for leaders. It's so important for those of us in HR or those of us who have influence to ask the right question. And the right questions help us get to the root cause of why this behavior is taking place. Yes, someone may, as you say, be frustrated or angry or say something inappropriate to a coworker. But once we sit down and have a conversation, it's more about understanding what's happening. Tell me more about that. And you eventually get to the root cause of it. And that can be an eye-opening experience because I believe every person can solve their own problems. They just need to be asked the right question. And then they get to that reason of why they did what they did. And that's just walking alongside of them to find out what is really happening. What's the underlying reason? And in most cases, it does lead to a resolution that is beneficial for all.
One of the questions I love to use is when somebody says they're feeling something, is where do you feel it in your body? And one of the reasons that I do that is not so much that I actually care where it is in the body, although that can be a good example of something, but it takes us from the outside story, the what am I thinking about what I'm feeling, and puts it into what am I noticing in terms of tension, tightness in my body. That puts people back into their body. It puts them back into the present moment, and it has them looking inward, not outward. And almost as soon as people start to do that, their energy shifts a bit and they start to notice things that are going on inside rather than outside. And so that's always I think a really good technique for any leader or anyone to get people to kind of go back to that place. And one way is there's a lot of emotions, but kind of noticing the nervous system states or the survival state. Because if somebody's in a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn state, that is a good indicator that they're activated, they're feeling something, they're dysregulated, their nervous system isn't in a calm, balanced, wise place. And identifying or noticing what state they're in can then help with how do I shift myself or someone else out of this state. And so understanding nervous system states and survival states, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, I think every leader should be trained on to know and be able to identify and know what to do to help someone in those states. Because that's a huge part of what then leads to the conflict and the negative outcomes in conversations. And so if you can identify that at outset, then you can decide, you know what, I should not even have a tough conversation right now. If this person is already in a defensive fight mode, until I get them out of it, they're not going to hear anything I have to say. So don't give feedback to somebody who's in a fight or flight state ever. It's never going to be a positive outcome.
You're absolutely right. And again, that's taking a beat and really understanding where someone is. And I love the question that you asked, where they're feeling it in their body, because that allows the person to center on themselves, right? And get back into recognizing what's happening internally. And you are so right on about the nervous system response and where someone is. And it's important for leaders to have conflict training, for lack of a better word, at this point in time, so that they understand their role and how they can impact what's moving forward. Because the worst thing, to your point, that can happen is if someone's in fight or flight and we give them feedback, oh my, that could elevate the response even higher than where it is right now. And that's not going to be helpful on any level. So,
absolutely.
And that's part of the training that we're having within the next 6 months is a communications training that incorporate conflict management and not in conflict resolution. That's the way I'd like to phrase it.
I love
To ensure that we're all equipped. And just reminders, I believe as leadership, we have been trained and taught and coached, and we know all of the different techniques, or we're familiar with the different techniques. And sometimes we just need to bring it back to the forefront so that we are present and there for our employees, as well as employees recognizing their own as well, that they need it as well. And so we will do that and make sure that we're all equipped to handle what may come next in our environment.
So what I think is interesting is even going one step further and saying conflict prevention, because so much of conflict can be prevented by
Yeah.
recognizing and navigating some of these things. And that's where I think it starts actually within ourselves and equipping people with those skill sets, right?
Yeah.
Of how do I deal with this? How do I become aware of? How do I move through the things that I'm experiencing? So before we get to kind of the end of this conversation, I do want to spend a couple of minutes and just hit a little bit, or have you tell us a little bit about your chapter in the Grit book, and tell us a little bit about what you share and why people should go out and definitely go get that book right away. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, a little bit about that. So my chapter is Believe Beyond Possibility. And I chose that chapter because sometimes we think things are impossible, but it's impossible at the point of just looking at it. But once we start those steps toward it, it becomes possible. And my chapter really focuses on 2 diagnoses I received back in, oh my gosh, 2006. I have to think back to it. So it's been a long time. And I was diagnosed with a brain tumor and with MS, muscular sclerosis. And at that time, I was diagnosed with both of those on the same day. And I received the diagnosis because the night before I was preparing for work. And those of us who are in leadership roles, we're not the typical 9 to 5, right? And it was a Saturday night. I was preparing for a business trip. I was leaving on Sunday morning to travel across the country. And it was about 1 a.m. in the morning. And I had what they call a focal seizure, so to speak. And I thought, oh my, what's that? And so, long story short, I decided to go to the hospital. I won't give the whole story, but I decided to go to the hospital. And that's when they diagnosed me with those 2 conditions. And I thought, I'm at the prime of my career. Things are going well. What in the world? And at that moment, I had 2 choices. I could have shut down and thought, you know what, this is not, I'm just not going to keep moving forward. I have to do something different. And it's true, I had to do something different. And I made some choices in my career, in my life, as far as my well-being, to work on the mental side of it all, because that's a huge load, and to work on the physical side of it. And I made some changes in my life that led to, I will call it, some triumphs. So I went from being in the valley to triumphant in changing my diet. It helped to, I would say, help me manage the conditions better. And I ended up having to have surgery to remove the brain tumor. But as you can see, I'm still thriving. I am still thriving in my career. I'm still thriving with my health. I'm still thriving with relationships. And so that's my chapter, is about how do you go from that place of uncertainty to the place of triumph. And it's all about how we manage what we're given, how we take care of ourselves, and how we approach it. Even looking at it, approach it with, oh, this is impossible. I can't do this. It's too hard. Or it's possible. I can do this, and I can overcome and be even more triumphant. And that's what my chapter is about.
I absolutely love it. And we will put the link in the show notes. So if you want to go check out this book, and there's multiple amazing authors that I know and I've connected with who have amazing stories in this book. But Sarah, that is just such a vulnerable and also powerful story that I think anybody can gain inspiration and insight from, and recognize that even through life's biggest challenges, that there is the opportunity for triumph and that things can be possible even when they seem impossible. So I love that's the chapter of your book. So I think you and I could probably go all day. But tell me, I want to give you a chance to kind of give a final thought or insight or something you'd like to share with our audience as we wrap this up.
One thing I'd like to share, and thank you, Jessica, for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And I'd like to share that we are all in this together. It's going to take all of us to overcome. It's going to take all of us to ensure that we are all okay, not just a part of us, but all of us. And showing up to be present and to have empathy and to have consideration. And in order to do that, to the point that we made before, we have to take care of ourselves. How important that is to take care of our mental health, our physical health, so that we are able to show up for one another, to uplift one another, and to know that we will be okay. It may not be okay now, but we will be okay. And we will be even better on the other side because we will have awakened that grit, that tenacity, and that realization that anything is possible if we're working together and moving forward together.
I think that's so beautiful. And I appreciate that so much because it can feel isolating and it can also feel polarizing, right? Where it's them versus us, or where we're separate from one another. And I think that the more we can connect, like you said, and see that we're in this together, and that at our core, all of us are human. We're all human beings. We're imperfect. We've been created with different patterns and neural pathways throughout our lives that shape who we are and how we show up and how we interact. And also, we've been gifted with the opportunity to be able to rewire those neural pathways, to change them, to adjust them, to recognize that a pattern is no longer serving us, and to create a new one that is better and more powerful in our lives. So I just want to remind everyone to always keep evolving, keep growing, keep rewiring those neural pathways so that you can live your best life, an exceptional life. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And I want to thank you, Sarah, for joining us. And we'll be back again next week with another episode.